How in the heck do I get a workout in when I absolutely do not have the time or the energy? This is probably one of the most common questions that I get from moms or from women that I work with, especially whenever we're working one on one. I'm asking, what is your biggest obstacle? It is almost always that I don't have time or I don't have energy. And so this is super, super common. But I want to kind of address this today and give some very tactical advice and some tips whenever it comes to looking at how do I make this happen? How do I stay consistent? How do I create the routine that I would like to have? So I think the first thing to acknowledge, and we all know this, but we only have the same 24 hours in a day, right? There's nothing that we can do to add more time as much as we might like to sometimes. And so it truly does, like it sounds so cliche, it sounds so dismissive, but it really does come down to a matter of priorities. And so I don't want to just say that as something that's dismissive, like you just got to prioritize it better. Like let's break this down and make it super, super tactical and tangible. And hopefully you can walk away from this video feeling like I can make this happen in a way that works for me and on my terms and the way I want to do it. So that's my goal here. So, number one is to ask yourself, first and foremost, do you actually want this? When it comes to working out, when it comes to eating better, when it comes to losing weight or whatever your goal might be, ask yourself, first off, do you actually really want this? And if so, why? What's driving you? This is not something where, it's like, well, I feel like I should. I hear that a lot. I keep hearing that I should be doing weightlifting or that I should be doing cardio or that in menopause, I need to be lifting heavier or I need to be, doing XYZ. So I hear all of the time, those things that we're just like, well, I feel like I should be doing this. And I don't want to use that when we're looking at this question here. I don't want to use that as a reasoning, as something that's going to push us because it's not going to push us. It will only get us so far. I feel like I should. So, do you actually want this? Whatever goal it is that we're talking about, whatever you're working towards in your workouts, your nutrition, your weight loss goals, whatever it is, do you actually want this and why? If your answer is yes, by the way, when you're answering why, I think it's super important to be very clear, get a crystal clear picture, not just, I want to feel healthier, but paint that picture. What does that actually look like? If you do that, and if you don't, I think having both of those as a super clear, like almost like a video in your head that you can play. What's a moment that you can picture? Two different ways that it would go. If I were in shape going to the beach with my kids this summer, it would mean like chasing them in the sand, maybe falling down and just like rolling around and having so much fun and being able to stay in the ocean as long as they want. Whereas if I am not in shape by then it means I'm going to be sitting there, having to chase them around and just constantly pleading with them, like, let's go back, let's go sit, let's just go play and dig, please, because I don't feel, the idea here is that you want a super clear, concrete image. What if I do this? What if I don't? And what that looks like. The second question that I want you to ask is, if you said, yes, I actually want this, then what would not just that outcome look like, but also the process to get there in an ideal world? You have all the time in the world. What would that look like? You have all the energy at your fingertips. What would the process of reaching your weight loss goal, your strength goal, your stamina goal, your whatever it is you're working on, what would that process look like for you? Would it look like you are committing all day every day to this? Would this look like hour-long workouts? Would it look like going to the gym? Would it look like working out at home? Would it look like working out first thing in the morning before the kids are up? Would it look like no workout? Maybe you hate working out and you're like, I just want to focus on my nutrition and I really want to work on losing weight, but I do not want to have to work out. That is not something that's part of the process for me. Or maybe it's something as simple as like going for walks or just incorporating more movement throughout the day, but not doing actual workouts. What does that process for you look like in an ideal world? And again, this is where you get to release those shoulds, not what you think you should be doing, but what do you actually want that process to look like on a day-to-day basis? And then what are you willing to give up or adjust expectations on to make the outcome and or that process happen? Because if you are watching this video and you're thinking, you're trying to figure out a way to work out to be consistent when you don't have the time or the energy, then you very likely, when you picture what that outcome looks like, when you picture what that process looks like, it's probably doesn't feel like something you could immediately incorporate into your routine right now. So if that means that there is something that would have to change to make that happen, what do you know just instinctively? What is your gut response out of all of the things on your plate right now? That if you're like, if I had to give up one thing to make this more possible, this is the thing I could say no to. And then I would challenge you to do that. Even if you decide that working out, as we go through these steps and you end up deciding working out's not my thing, this fitness thing, it's really not as important to me as I thought it was. I would challenge you, if there was something that immediately came to mind that I asked you, what are you willing to give up to make this happen? It's probably something you're wanting to release anyway. And so I would challenge you to give yourself that permission to go ahead and say no to that thing, just to give yourself that extra space, that extra breathing room in your day. But that's a little bit of beside the point. So we're going to continue. So we asked, do you actually want this and why? And then if yes, what would not just the outcome, but the process look like in an ideal world? And then what are you willing to give up or adjust your expectations on to make that happen? So when I say adjust expectations, I mean, maybe in an ideal world, it's a 30-minute workout, or even going to the gym for an hour a day. Maybe that's your ideal. Like, you love going to the gym. You're like, I would love to. Or maybe it's running. You would love to pick up running, something that takes a little bit more time. But for now, you're willing to adjust your expectations to make it 5 or 10 minutes. Or it could be something that's more about, your expectations are that laundry needs to be folded and put away. And you decide, you know what? I'm not folding pajamas anymore. I'm just throwing them in the drawer because who cares if you sleep in wrinkled pajamas? It could be something as silly as that, right? Something that maybe is taking up a lot of your time, and you're deciding, I don't need to put that expectation on myself anymore. This can be something that I can simplify. That was just one silly example, but what are some areas of life right now, maybe something that's taking up a lot of your time, that it's not about saying no to it, but it's about adjusting the way that you do it or what you're expecting from yourself with it. Then, once you have thought through those three things, here is kind of our step-by-step process. You're going to identify the obstacles and the stories that are getting in your way. Once you've decided, okay, I'm going to give up this or adjust my expectations on that, and I'm ready to move forward, you're still going to find it difficult to stick with. It just is. Anytime we're adjusting a routine, anytime we're working towards a new goal, it is difficult to stick with it. Like, it just takes it takes a lot of adjustment. There's an adjustment period. And so there will be things that come up that we don't anticipate. Sometimes there's things that come up that we do anticipate, and they still happen. They still derail us. And so it's important to look at, what are the obstacles getting in my way? And this could be before you actually begin, and looking at if I tried to do even a 5-10 minute workout, or maybe a 30-minute workout, or whatever, right now, what would be getting in my way? Okay, well, I've identified I'm willing to wake up a little bit earlier, or I'm willing to cut out this activity, or, you know, tell the kids that we're trimming back on activities this summer, or whatever it might be. You've identified what you're willing to cut out. What do you anticipate being obstacles still when you sit down to do this? Or sometimes you see that happen as you are in the process. So you've started working out and you're like, okay, I've done it a few times, but these things keep happening. The kids are waking up early, or I'm finding myself just not having the energy whenever I have the time to do it, or we keep getting sick and I keep getting derailed in my progress there. I know that's a big one. So identify, what are the physical obstacles that get in your way, and what are the stories getting in your way? What are the thoughts that come in your head every time that you go to do a workout, that you go to prep your meal, that you go to I don't know, whatever the next step is in your day to get you towards that goal, the next step in that process. What is the thought that comes into your head? Is it that it's not worth it? That if I don't have at least 30 minutes, it doesn't count? That if I don't eat at least this many salads a week, I'm never going to lose weight? Or it's not worth anything else? I might as well. This is such a common one. I might as well just throw the rest of the day away. I might as well eat whatever I want at dinner because I treated at lunch. That might as well is another way of saying it's not worth it unless tomorrow's a weight loss day, unless I can get at least 30 minutes, 45, an hour long workout in, it's not worth it. Unless what that's really saying is, unless I achieve whatever the thing is, then me putting that time and effort and energy into myself isn't worth it. So, one of the things we can do there, one of the things I think is really helpful for those stories is identifying what are the very short term benefits? What are the ways it's still worth it, like right now, right? In the next 5 minutes, hour, it's by the end of the day. What are the things that still make that feel worth it, even if I don't achieve, a weight loss day tomorrow, or an hour long workout, or if I'm not able to go up in weights next week, or whatever. So what are some different ways we can challenge those stories? Basically what I'm getting at. We want to brainstorm solutions to the obstacles. So whatever obstacles you came up with that are getting in your way or could potentially get in your way. And then those stories that come up, what are the things that we want to do to challenge those stories? Because those stories might be true, they might not be, but we get to decide if we want to continue to think them, to hold on to them, and to let them define us, or if we want to replace them with something else. So in this step, when you are brainstorming these solutions, think in terms of solving problems and adjusting your expectations too. Remember, when we're talking about what do you want the process to look like, not just the outcome. Is this an area where maybe we could release that idea of a 30-minute or 45-minute workout and being okay with just building consistency right now with a 5-minute workout, just showing up for yourself, or with just moving throughout the day, making squats every hour or two, part of your routine, where you're just incorporating that movement as you go throughout your day and celebrating that, saying that is worth it, that does count, that does matter. So think about that whenever you are brainstorming solutions. Then you're going to take that brainstorm list. Okay, so I know these are the things getting in my way. And remember that we want to look as close to the problem as possible, as close to the moment when something goes wrong, whenever you're about to get that workout in and then something happens and changes the trajectory of that moment. Like, what happens in that moment, the physical thing that happens and your thoughts that happens in that moment. So identifying those obstacles and stories, brainstorming solutions. So you've got a list of, okay, these are all the things I could do. Some of these are really bad ideas. Some of these are things I would never do. Some of these are things that I don't know. I have no clue if that's going to work, but we'll give it a shot. And then just pick one or two of those and look at it as an experiment, just something you're going to try. So for me this week, I'll just give an example. I am really focusing on sleep. I have been getting like 6.5 hours of sleep a night, and it's just not enough. I've just been feeling run down and very unmotivated. I just don't feel like doing anything ever, pretty much. And I just knew, okay, something's got to change here. I was feeling really short and frustrated with my boys all the time. And I was like, I'm not okay with this. And so I finally decided sleep is going to be something I'm really going to focus on. And because they go to bed kind of late, that really just meant sleeping an extra hour later in the mornings. So that means I have to figure out what I was doing during that hour, getting work done, working out, doing my Bible study. Something there has to give, and it's going to have to move. And we're going to have to figure out another way to get it done, which is why today, while the boys are napping, normally I would be using this as my decompress time, but I'm here chatting with you, and we are going to kill more birds with one stone, I guess. But it's an experiment, and I'm seeing, does that work today? I'm just testing it out. I'm not saying, okay, nap time every day is when I record YouTube videos and when I do all of my work, and that's what I'm going to do every single day. I'm not making that commitment. I'm just testing this out today. Just going to see how it goes. I also have an appointment this afternoon that my mother-in-law is going to come watch the boys, so I asked her to come a little bit early. We're just going to test that out just for today. I wouldn't ask her to come early, every single time we have an appointment, or come over every single day to help me get work done. But where can I play with things and just try them and just see what works and treat it like an experiment? Then at the end of the day, the week, whatever, I do recommend doing this at least on a weekly basis. Look at all of that information. Look at that data. Look at how it went. What can you celebrate? What can you be proud of yourself for? And what can you learn from? What of that experiment played out the way you thought it would, and what absolutely did not? Something else I'm trying this week, because of course, when I work on sleep, my children start waking up earlier. And so the wake up times have been creeping earlier and earlier. So I'm very much experimenting with nap times and with bedtimes. And okay, if I move this back, or if I push this later and we adjust this, like what happens? It is so much an experiment, right? I can't know. what's going to happen. Kids are very unpredictable, as we all know. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I can play with it and see. So that's very much what we're doing. And that's very much the mindset that I want us to have as we go into this process. What happens if I just try this? Let's just find out. Not, it's not going to work anyway, and then looking for the evidence that it doesn't work, but just open-minded. What would happen? We're just going to like roll the dice and see what we get. And that's exactly what we're doing. So I just wanted to encourage you with that as well. Whenever we're looking at, what worked and what didn't, we do not look at it as this is a pass or fail, but it means something about me, and that I either check it off like I succeeded, or I failed if I did not accomplish the thing. Instead, it is a process, it is data, it is information. And I want to encourage you to, as you work through this process, remember we are looking at, first and foremost, do you actually want this? And if so, why? No should, just why do you want it? What would not just the outcome, but also the process of getting there look like in an ideal world for you? What are you willing to give up or adjust expectations on to make that happen? Then looking at identifying your obstacles and the stories that are getting in your way, brainstorming solutions to those, and then just treating it as an experiment, just testing it all out, just seeing what happens. And then I want to remind you that as you do this, your actions do not mean anything about you as a person, and that you are genuinely deserving of taking time for yourself, especially for your health. It is absolutely worth it. If this video was helpful for you, I would love to hear. Drop me a comment and let me know. If you have any questions, as always, you can drop those in the comments or send me a message over on Instagram. I'm at Tired Mama Training, and we can chat some more in the DMs there. So I would love to hear from you. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.